All right. Well, cheers. The
Cheers.
inaugural, the
Yes,
inaugural
sir.
episode.
I'm fired up to be here.
All right. So we got Mac Lomax, owner, co-founder of Staff, with us today. Welcome to the freaking show, man. I'll be damned.
Well,
You made
thank
it.
you. I know I'm honored to be here and help kick it off. But before we go any further, I kind of want to talk about how I met you
Okay.
and what an experience that was. A good friend of ours, Ryan, I'd been introduced to at the country club, and we'd been playing a few rounds of golf together.
Hmm.
And he goes, "Hey, I got a buddy. I think you'd really like Mac. His name's Steven. We got to get a foursome." So we get out on a driving range, and I see this guy pull up in this really awesome lifted Hummer and American flag hanging out the window. And I say, "Whoever this guy is, I like him." Little did I know, it was Steven who was in our foursome. So he walks up, we kind of like shake hands,
Yeah.
exchange pleasantries, and we get to talking about golf. And I watch him honestly peer the ball, and I go, "This guy is a heck of an athlete just based off his swing. I'm a great judge of talent." And after watching him swing, I said, he's pretty athletic looking, very tall. And I go, and he really swings hard. And I go, this guy looks like he played sports in college. So I look at his golf bag and I see that he's South Carolina out, got Gamecock cover head. And it takes about 3 or 4 holes until I hear someone say his last name. And then it was like a light bulb went off. And I said, this I think is Steven Garcia, the SEC quarterback who used to play for my favorite coach,
Oh,
Steve Spurrier. And I know I've
there's
watched
some contention there.
I've watched the show enough to know. But needless to say, probably like hole 4 or 5, I said, let's start gambling and make
That's
this more
right.
interesting because I
That's
want
right.
to I want to win some money off this guy. And I don't think it went in my favor that day. But that's honestly how I met you, man.
Yeah. No, that was where was that at Cheval, right?
That was a Cheval. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And then we just started shooting the shit and become friends since then, and
Yep.
it's been awesome. So
It really
again,
has. That just recently I had Steven and his wife over with their little girl to play with Peyton for kind of like a little pool day. And that was a lot of fun because normally when we hang out, there's just tons of people around,
yeah,
but we
yeah.
got to actually spend some good time talking. And it's always fun to hear Steven kind of talk about, what's on his mind that day. And I told him, full disclosure, I've turned down a handful of podcasts
I remember saying
before
that. Yeah.
with people, business related or just, friends. And with Steven, I feel like I got such a great relationship with him. I wanted to come on and support the show and support him. But
Well, I mean,
yeah, man.
that's why I couldn't think of anybody else. I was talking with Sean and like, look, man. I mean, I want to do sports and suits, and
Sure.
I mean, I can't think of a person that I know better than you that has an affiliation with sports and suits. And I mean, I think I appreciate you coming on, man. This
Yeah.
is incredible. So I mean, let's kind of just go through just from the beginning, man. Like, give us your story.
All right. Well,
You're a good
um,
storyteller, so
I am a good
don't be
storyteller.
shy,
So
man. And let
a lot
let
of
it
it might
fucking ride,
a
man.
lot of it might be inflated. But the reality is, I grew up playing sports my entire life.
From San Fran.
Yeah, I grew up just outside of San Francisco.
Decent.
Pretty decent, pretty decent. Um, so great. I grew up 40 miles north of San Francisco in Sonoma County, specifically Santa Rosa. And from day one, obsessed with sports. My sister was a huge indoor volleyball player, and she was a Division One full ride scholarship athlete as well. And I grew up just constantly obsessing about football, baseball, and basketball,
Hmm.
and truly just love any sport you can play. But as fate would have it, I didn't grow past 6 feet half inch, and I really just didn't see the SEC situation working out for me. So I only had one college in mind, and after high school, I knew I'd go to the University of Florida, where my mother was runner-up homecoming queen. We always jokingly tell people she was the homecoming queen, but in reality, runner-up.
Runner up, yeah.
And my aunt went there, and most of my family, cousins, everybody. So since we were kids,
From California, they went to the University of Florida, or they grew up in that.
so to give a little more context, my mom grew up on a fourth generation cattle ranch just
Okay.
outside of Gainesville.
Okay, so that's the
And
ranch that you're always
yeah,
shooting guns.
that's where
And,
I'm always shooting
okay,
guns and hunting at. And that's just a slice of paradise. We'll have to get you up there.
yeah,
But My mom grew up on that ranch, and they ran a cattle business until the early 90s and then sold it. And, one of the things I want to throw in about the history of that ranch is my grandfather, Glover McDonald. He passed away at an early age of 43. Pretty devastating for their family. But that ranch continued to run, woman owned.
That's pretty sweet.
Yep, by my grandmother Dooley, and it's just a great story.
That is
And
nuts.
yeah,
You don't see that very often.
you don't. And so when I
It's
go
like
up,
Yellowstone, ain't it?
yeah, it is. And when I get there, and if I have any new first timers there, I always like to tell them the history of that it's a fourth generation ranch, and that it was run entirely from the early 50s by women. Pretty cool.
That
right?
is cool. That's
Yep.
really cool.
So as kids, every summer, to answer your question, we would fly in from California, and I'll back it up just a hair by saying we normally come out in the springtime first and watch the orange and blue game, and then we'd come in the summer and out at the ranch we'd ride horses, we'd hang out with a lot of people in the community there, and just small town, middle America. I think the town that they're from it's called Raleigh, and I think there's about 200 to 300 people in that town.
Oh shit!
And the next big town over is Williston, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
I just drove through it this past weekend, and
Yep.
I'll go heading to South Carolina. And that drive.
That's you texted me and said this is a long drive, and I said you must be headed to South Carolina. But there's not much going on out there.
No, there's not, except for speed traps.
Speed traps, and then I would say great people. Williston's one of those areas where I've lived in Florida now 11 years since I moved here to start the company with my partners, and the community there has been great to me. I mean, your tractor breaks down, you need anything, someone's there to help you.
Yep.
So that's kind of why I always knew I wanted to go to University of Florida. Best sports programs, huge football fanatic, and then when I was a kid in our house, Steve Spurrier was like a god. And I know this is going to pain you, Steven, but one of the best birthday gifts I ever got was in 5th grade, and my aunt got Steve Spurrier, and at the time, one of their defensive coordinators named Jimmy Ray Stevens, to sign to sign a helmet for me and send it out for my 5th birthday. So to me, I just grew up Gator hats, Gator sweatshirts, everything. So when you ask about my story, I'd only applied to one college, and that was the University of Florida, and I knew I would get in, and that would be the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as it turns out, I didn't get in, and I got put on a summer school wait list, basically. And so my mom and I talked it over.
Well, I mean, Florida's difficult to get into.
It's very difficult. My niece right now, who's exceptional in high school, top student, her number one is University of Florida. And she came out, and we all went to the campus, and even with straight A's and just an unbelievable SAT score, they said it's almost impossible to get in from out of state.
That's wild.
So for her, she's looking at a couple of other schools like Texas, SMU, but in reality, Florida's just kind of like that unicorn for out of state kids.
Right.
So I could have gone to summer school. I could have gone to a junior college. I believe in Florida they call them something different, right? A community college.
Community college, yep.
Yeah, so in California they call them junior colleges. And at the time, a couple of my best buddies had taken scholarships to Arizona State to play football, and they were a year older than me. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, we heard that you didn't get into Florida. You should come check out Arizona State." So leapfrogging a lot of what was going on during that time, I flew down to Arizona State's campus with my mom and dad, and from the minute I landed in Tempe to the second I entered campus, I said, "This is where I'm going to school."
Your jaw was just on the floor?
Yeah, my jaw dropped. Best looking student body I've ever seen. The girls are outrageous.
That's what I've heard.
And it's just, honestly, it's beautiful. And I'm a guy that's really, even at that age, I like scenery. I like palm trees, green grass. And I said, this would be the place that I think I need to go. And it ended up being the absolute best decision of my life, because I met some of my closest friends, and I created a network that ended up helping me navigate through the business world and a lot of that.
And that's a good point you made. So if you would have went to Florida, do you feel like you would have made those same connections? Since you kind of knew the Gainesville area, you knew the community.
So here you go. About making connections. A lot of when I thought about what I kind of wanted to convey during this podcast, life is a lot about opportunity.
Right.
So to answer your question, I think things work out the way that they should, and I do think I probably would have made some contacts at Florida. I have a lot of family people. I won't mention names, but there are some really bright and brilliant business people in the Tampa community who, are now in their 70s and 80s, who my mom knew really well, who I think could have maybe opened some doors or helped me get that first entry-level introduction to somebody. So I think if you're motivated and willing to put yourself out there, you're going to make
You'll find a way.
Yeah, you're gonna make connections.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head, man. If you put yourself out there, and I give these kids that I'm training, and even my own kid, Memphis, it's like, dude, put yourself out there. Like the worst thing that someone's gonna say is, "I'm good, man. I don't have any interest in being friends with you. I don't want to talk to you." You gotta put yourself out there.
Yeah,
and kids are afraid of it, man. They just sit there like this on their phones all the time. I'm like, if you guys just look up, there's a big ass world out there for you.
It is, and that you talk about the phone situation. Recently, being a first time parent, Peyton is now 2. Well, it turns 2 next week.
We'll be there.
Yeah, it's. By the way, I sent the great picture of them by the pool, which was just, I think, in probably 15 years, they're going to look back on that and be like,
with the cell staff.
Yeah, that was pretty.
That
funny.
was great.
But back to our commentary on phones, they're terrible. And you walk around our office floor and you see anybody, like top salespeople, admin, people got their head down on their phone, and so much of life is like banter and culture and communicating. And I, always say, I think the worst thing that happened to just our overall communication standard is the development of technology.
100%. Like now you got AIs that are.
Oh.
I mean, we'll go through that here in a minute. I got an interesting story about that. But I mean, even training with these kids, and as soon as, we'll take a water break or whatever, these guys will go sit down. They don't talk to each other, grab their phone, and they go like this and just scroll. So eventually I said, you know what, fuck this, guys. Give me your phones. And I had a little basket. I said, put your phones in here. As soon as you walk in, put your phones in here.
Yeah.
You guys start talking to each other, get each other better, like make friends. I mean, you don't know if this guy could end up being your boss. This could be your employee. You don't know. Talk to him. Get to know each other.
And it's
a lost art these days.
It's so funny you say that. I didn't start playing golf until a little over 2 years ago. And maybe once or twice in college, I went out and drank a bunch of beers on the golf course. And
that's what you're supposed to do.
Smash the cart around a little bit, right?
100%.
But really, I consider myself a pretty good athlete. I was a terrible first-time golfer. But what I picked up on quickly and what made me really love the sport is the social aspect of it. And obviously, we've become great friends over golf. Right now, I currently live out in Odessa, which is I would consider a smaller country-style community.
Oh, yeah.
And I've met so many wonderful people all through the world of golf. And, as you know, we get invited to, private clubs. We go play public courses with friends. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're on a golf course with your buddies, you're having a good time.
100%. 100%.
Drinks are flowing and
the shit talking's going. You start
so much shit talking.
Couple holes go by. It's like, all right, this is kind of boring. Let's start upping the stakes. Let's put some money on it.
And what I laugh about is every single time that you and I have gone down to the wire on a match.
It's every time.
Instead of me doubling down on 18, I never do it. And every time I seem to win the 18th hole, and you give me the opportunity. So I think I need to start getting a little more
shit. And Mario tells you, he's like, man, why would you not? You should triple down on this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Mario, we'll talk about him for a second. He is one of the pros over at Cheval, and he actually started a company, Fairway Fellas, which is a cultural lifestyle golf company. Yeah. And he's just been such a great addition to like our network of golf and having fun because he's a younger guy who... What is his handicap?
I don't know. He's a fucking Georgia fan though, so I don't.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It is bad, but he's a plus handicap. And he's incredible. College golfer, And he's, he keeps it interesting
does.
because he'll gamble with anybody about anything.
Yeah.
So.
And then you got Ryan and them.
Oh yeah.
You want to talk about banter, gambling and banter?
Yeah. For those of you that don't know Ryan Regal, he is somebody that you want on a golf course
To explain the rules.
He will be there to banter on every hole.
We love you, Ryan. We
yeah,
do, man.
He's the man, and Ryan's been so great to us with introducing us to people at clubs, and he actually owns a really great business out in Odessa called Athlete Retreat.
Yep.
And I'm actually rehabbing right now with a fantastic therapist there, and my boy Clancy has been helping me put back my flexor tendon. And you got Athlete Retreat, and you got a lot of MLB guys when they're working out.
Pete Alonso. I mean,
yeah, and he's built an incredible business there. So again, it's all part of that Odessa community.
Yep. And you want to talk about somebody that puts himself out there. He'll go up to anybody and go talk some shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ryan will, if he needs to talk to you, he's going to talk to you.
He will talk to you.
And it's
and
the
I
best.
Love it.
And I respect the hell out of that. And that's another example of somebody that I see who looks for opportunity and is not afraid to shake hands and talk,
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I've known his wife, Lexi, since she was maybe firstborn. So his brother-in-law,
I didn't
Jared.
know y'all went back that long.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
His brother-in-law, Jared Durwart, he's my oldest friend. I've known him since kindergarten. He's the one that helped me build the pole barn and helps me with some other stuff around the house. So when I found out that, his sister was married to Ryan, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Your sister's married? She's got a kid? Like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
The hell did time go?
Flying. Yeah.
It is flying, man. It's scary. I mean, shit. I remember we saw on the refrigerator Peyton's second birthday, and I'm like, didn't they just have a birthday party for him?
I know.
Wasn't that like a couple weeks ago?
I told Nicole, time is flying by at an uncomfortable rate.
It is.
And
it truly is.
To think that both of our children are already 2, it just seems like yesterday we were at the hospital, and, we're right at the same. He has a beautiful daughter, same age, and it's just crazy to think that, they're going to be on the quick path to, what we've done the last.
I'm telling you, man, it's baffling. Then you got, Memphis, who's 17, turns 18 in a few months. He's trying to make it in his own right in football at Jefferson, and Celia turns 11 next month, and it's just like, where the fuck did time go?
Well, this will make you laugh. So my high school in the Bay Area of California is Cardinal Newman, and it was a private Catholic school, and it's centered around sports. I mean, that is, as in 3rd grade, you say, hey, Mac, what do you want to do? And, for your life, I go, play football at Cardinal Newman. I mean, that was like so many Division I athletes come out of there, state champions, all, every other year they're in the race to win or second. And I have not seen a high school football game since I graduated. And I can tell you, Memphis, he'll be my first one. My office.
I was about to say, your office is right there.
My office is located on West Shore, right across from International Plaza. And now that Memphis is there, I'll look out my window and I'll see the guys practicing. I'll see Steven out there throwing with them. And it just gets me all fired up because there's nothing better in the world than Friday Night Lights. I mean,
I'm telling you, we'll do some tailgating.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, college is amazing. Obviously, Steven, you're a legend. I did not play college, and I have obviously some of my closest friends in life did. But
we'll talk about that real quick. I want to talk about college, and I know we got a couple minutes left, so I want to wait till the next segment. But I wanted to preface this. I wanted to hear your opinion on where college is at now compared to where it was when we were there, as opposed, like the loyalty of the players.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
It's very disappointing.
Yeah, and people give me shit all the time, and people say you can't root for the Gators, and I'm like, I'm rooting for the Gators. I'm rooting for Arizona State. I love both of them, but the reality is, I hate the new. The whole transfer portal.
Everything about it.
Now, do I love that players are getting paid? Absolutely. But players have been getting paid if you're elite for the longest time. And
Forever.
Look at Reggie Bush, right? Is like everything that went on from the history of the beginning of college football till now, top players are getting paid.
Yeah.
So this is an equal platform, but it's gotten out of control. And, you ask my honest opinion, I do not think you should just be able to transfer immediately if another team whiffs $5-6 million at you.
Right.
I think there should be a waiting period at minimum. or there should be some type of salary cap to what you can get.
There's got to be a salary cap. I just saw Clay Travis post yesterday. University of Texas at this point is supposed to have a $40 million football roster. What the fuck?
I know, that's fucking, I mean, that is outrageous.
I mean, I understand. I agree. And I think guys should be getting paid. I generally do. But it is a double-edged sword. You got a kid that's coming out of high school that's a 5-star recruit, never played a snap of college football in his life. I'm the returning starter. You're going to pay this kid $10 million to come here, and I'm only getting 4 or 5. Like, that's going to be a problem in the locker room.
It is. Oh, for sure it's going to be a problem. And you look at, you mentioned Texas's quarterback, who just got drafted?
Quinn Ewers.
Yeah. He could have stayed back another year and transferred to any other college, they said, for a minimum of like $6 to $8 million.
I think it was Notre Dame was offering him $8 million.
Yeah, $8 million. And instead he went to the NFL. So, I mean, strategically, that's probably maybe not the best move.
That's a horrible move.
Yeah. But who are advising these guys? And
that's another question.
Somebody offered me $8 million to stay. And let's be honest, like I've talked to you about some of your college stories. I don't think any party gets better than the college party.
No.
You know? And
it does not.
That's what I love sitting around listening to you talk about when you were beating Alabama and you were making all the big scores, you know, the legendary status that you had on campus. And again, I went to Arizona State, but when I was there, Terrell Suggs was there.
Oh, yeah.
And that guy walked around like a freaking, God.
God,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And you just sit there and you're like, if you're the Garcias of the world, the Tebows, the Cam Newtons, I mean, or the Mannings, can't imagine.
Yeah. So, no, it's a whole different deal. And, I've had, separate conversation. It's like, I do think these guys should get paid. I just don't think they should get paid coming out of high school. I think there should be some sort of a pay for play structure. At the same time, it's like you have this much time in your life to make money for playing the sport. Why the hell would you not try to make I don't blame the kids one bit.
Not at all. And again,
try to make, the Nico, whatever his name is, Lamalia from Tennessee, demanding $4 million. Like, he ain't worth $4 million.
No, and he had already had a substantial deal. And
substantial.
Pretty decent. That guy is great, by the way. We're gonna you have to plug him on your cast because
dude, I was DMing him yesterday.
You
sent me that last one. I was like, I got to message this guy.
He is one of the funniest people on Instagram. And
it's unreal.
Pretty much every day I wake up and I'm either sending Steven this guy's Instagram or Steven sending it to me, but it's decent.
Yeah, decent. Yeah. I will have to plug the guy for sure.
Yeah, back to the money exchange. You're not going to walk away from money at that age.
You can't.
Especially to do something you love, like play football. So I think everybody agrees they should get paid, but ultimately, nobody has the right answer. And I've heard Saban talk about it. Smart
he retired
talk about it. I know, because
Saban's like, I can't. This is going to be uncontrollable.
Well, that's what I really want to talk to you about later on in the segment is culture, and how do you build a winning culture if every, let's say, employee, because that's what they are now, is leaving in under a year to get paid slightly more at another college.
You can't. There is no culture.
Which is why Saban retired.
100%.
And it's ruining the sport.
It is. I mean, there's, you saw, and he was the first overall pick, Cam Ward, sit down the second half of the bowl game. I was with a buddy of mine who's a pretty big Miami booster.
Sure.
And he's like, I'm done. I am fucking done. I'm not giving them another dime. We pay this guy how much? $4 million, and he's going to not play in the second half in a game that's, I want to win this game. I put money on this game, Miami to win.
Yeah.
So he said, fuck it, I'm not going to play.
And that's like, how do you feel about that? I mean, I know you're a savage human being, so you're going to play no matter what. But if you potentially could get top 10 status in a draft and make millions of dollars through endorsements as well, do you think it's worth taking that snap in a meaningless bowl game? And it's not meaningless in the sense that you don't want your school to win or the fans to be happy, but it is meaningless because you're not competing for a national championship.
Right. I'm like you said, I'm slightly different. If I'm putting a helmet on, I'm fucking playing. I'm playing until they do what they did and they say, hey, Steven, you're no longer here.
That's why everybody loves you, man.
Yeah.
Because you get it.
Yeah, but if you have an opportunity to make that much money, I mean, I kind of get it. So, what is that? Are we
Just wrap it up.
All right. Well, we're gonna go reload and we'll be back. We got a bomb going off here, folks.
I know, I'm like,
holy shit.
What's going to happen here?
All right, welcome back.
Cheers.
Second segment. Oh, man. Yeah, we just got done talking about NIL and culture and this and that. And, just wanted to kind of talk about what made you start Cell Staff and how did that come about?
Okay. So, a lot of what we've already discussed in the first segment is more or less what led us to starting Cell Staff. And from a very young age, in my early 20s, I got right into the corporate world out of college. And it was through one of my Cardinal Newman buddies who I played football with. And Kyle, if you happen to catch this segment, he said, Mac, with your personality, you should take a look at nurse recruiting. And he's like, basically, you're helping professionals in the nursing industry find jobs all day. And I go, so, what does that mean exactly? And he goes, you're basically making hundreds of phone calls a day and talking to nurses about opportunities.
Just cold calling or?
Cold calling, yeah. So back then you had like paper lists and you would just dial all day long and say like, hey, look, I see that you're an ER nurse. Are you happy with your position? If you're not, we have thousands of positions all over the country. We could offer you travel jobs. We could offer you local hospital assignments in the San Francisco market. It's back then the industry was.
When did you start it?
2005.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so I've been at it for a while.
You guys had to be pretty busy during COVID with the travel nurses.
It was so. Cell Staff actually, we don't do a whole lot of travel, surprisingly.
Oh, okay.
So, a lot of people were like, during COVID, you guys must have been maxed out with travelers. But we actually decided to stick to our core business, which is government services lines.
Okay.
So we actually do a lot of correctional healthcare, meeting big prisons, both state, federal. We'll help staff them with medical doctors, nurses, and mid-level practitioners. But during COVID, we actually wanted to help our own community. And so we worked with Hillsborough County.
Okay.
And remember the big Raymond James?
Oh, yeah.
Like where you could go get testing?
Yep.
We ran an overwhelming majority of that project.
Holy shit.
And then on the port cruises as well, we had a lot of staff dealing with all the cruise ships coming in. So we did screening. And honestly, that was something that we, discussed as an ownership team. And we wanted to do it in our own backyard because we don't do a whole lot of business in Tampa. We're more nationally based. And we have staff in probably like 42 states.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so we have a big reach on what we do. But it felt good to, help in our own community.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yeah, COVID was very busy because, that was just such a scary time for a lot of people. And, healthcare.
Confusing time for a lot of people.
Yeah, confusing. And healthcare workers, we asked a lot of them. And, I've seen nurses who retired after COVID because of the shifts, the hours, and what they went through. They didn't want to continue doing that as a career.
Yeah, I mean, not sure if I believe or disagree with them.
It's tough.
Yeah,
it'd be very tough. But to get back to why we started the company, my two business partners and I had worked together for a big $1 billion company for many years, and then we got with another group who had just started a company, and we kind of helped them get it off the ground in California and open up, a dozen branches throughout the Southwest and West Coast. And basically one thing that we all agreed upon was that culture is the end all be all for business success. And so my two partners and I basically sat towards the end of 2010, and I presented them with kind of like we should start our own company. We can do this. There's no reason we can't do this. And both of these guys are, people I trust entirely and are exceptional at what they do with building teams, bringing in business. And we decided, let's do it.
I mean, trust has got to be a huge part of that deal.
Oh, it is. And that's how we ended up in Tampa, Florida, is we decided that California maybe wouldn't be the best place financially to start a company. And that in addition to that, it would be very difficult to navigate through the legal constraints of California's business climate. So our attorneys all thought Florida or Texas would be a good landscape.
That seems to be the
Yeah,
the
right.
routine with a lot of businesses now.
I guess they weren't wrong 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So basically, we came out and the three of us toured around Tampa. I've got some cousins that live here, and my other partner has a couple of cousins in St. Pete. And we drove around. We saw the palm trees, the white sand. Of course, I've been here many, many times previously, and everybody fell in love with it. And it was the best decision we've ever made, because I truly can say I've lived in San Francisco, I've lived in Scottsdale, I've lived in San Diego for many years. Tampa is by far the best city I've ever lived in. Like,
cheers to that,
cheers
man.
to Tampa Bay.
Yes, sir.
But
and Lutz and Odessa specifically.
I consider them a part of the Bay, but it is very country. But yeah, honestly, we built the company around culture, and we said we want to hire the best people who love where they work and what they do.
Yep.
And without getting into too much detail, we always participate in best places to work.
That's what I was going to say. If Sean, if you could pull that up, man, and just kind of show the video of. So yeah, I mean, best place to work. I mean, that's.
And to be fair, this year we did finish, I think, fourth place. Yeah, we finished in fourth place for a large business category, and we have won it number one in previous years. So obviously we can improve a little bit on how we're ranked. But the reality is we've been in business 11 years, and we've had just some amazing employees come through the door. And much of our senior leadership, our executive team, are people that have been with us now 9 years. And it's been just an incredible run of watching people come through the door right out of college.
And stay with you guys.
And stay with us, but seize the opportunity.
Right.
And I remember specifically one of our vice presidents, I was recruiting him when he was living in Denver, Colorado. And I said, look, we're a new company. We're very small right now. We have like 6 employees. And I go, but eventually, we'll be $100 million company.
Yeah.
And you need to get on board with what we're doing, fly back to Tampa where he went to college. He graduated from UT. But I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. And he's one of our VPs now, been with us 9 years, and has just done extremely well. So when we finally broke that milestone of 100 million, it had a lot of meaning for both him and me. But just like I said, the culture that we have was built because we'd come from companies that were good, had
right.
really good culture. And then we were part of companies that
kind of used that to,
had really bad culture.
Yeah.
And so we took all of those learning lessons and said, let's create something that we just fucking love. And that's how Stealth South was born, honestly.
I mean, you're a damn coach, basically.
Yeah, honestly.
You go to a few different, stops, and, we look at Coach Beamer. We had him on one of our podcasts, and it's like, I was at South Carolina. I was at, Virginia Tech with my dad. I was at Oklahoma. I was at Georgia, and all these other, he took pieces of the culture that, he was around. He liked the good, he liked the bad, or didn't like the bad. And he's like, I'm going to try to mold what I want to do when I'm a head coach. So, yeah. I mean, it's all, it all is kind of, it all correlates.
It does. And that's why I think I love sports so much. And like you and I talked about doing this, like sports and business podcast is, it's all the same shit.
Yeah.
If you're successful in sports, you can be successful in business. And that's what I think is such a eye-opening situation is shit goes south all the time. Like you go to throw a touchdown pass and someone sacks you, like didn't work out.
Right.
Then you got to go back and regroup on the play and get, yell at whoever missed their blocking assignment, or maybe,
it was always my fault with Coach Spurrier.
Maybe it was you, right?
It was always me.
But
always my fault.
With that said, no one is going to be without failure in what they're trying to do.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I think now as a society, we've changed a little bit where people kind of don't like the failure. And
they're afraid of it.
They're afraid of it. And then when it happens, they're like devastated.
Oh, yeah.
And, going back to me not getting into Florida, I think about that all the time, or that maybe I could have pushed a little harder and tried to play sports in college, play football. I don't know. But there are certain things that, you regret. And I will never forget my senior year, we did not win state. And we definitely should have. And at halftime, one of our coaches looked at us, and he was our defensive coordinator, and he said, some of you are never going to play football again after this half if you don't pull your heads out to your ass. And we lost to a team that we'd beaten by, I think, like 40 points earlier that year.
Oh, shit.
And we just weren't. We just
weren't in it.
We weren't in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, even in our early 40s, it still haunts some of the guys on our team. We talk about it. And those guys went on to play college football. And it's just funny how you remember certain things. And that's where I think the failure process is good. And one of the things that you and I were talking about during our last break is I always knew I wanted to start a company. And from the time I was 23, I said, I want to own a company. And what do I need to do to get there? And when I first got my opportunity in San Francisco, it was with a big $1 billion company, I got the chance to meet the president of the company. And I ran over and shook his hand.
Yeah.
And I remember walking away and saying, this guy is awesome. He's the president of a $1 billion company.
Just a normal dude.
Normal guy. And I go, there's no reason I can't be there.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of the attitude that I always had in sports as well as,
why not me?
why can't I compete?
Right.
Right. And that's where I think now
sports is a little different. You got to be, you gotta have a little bit of a stature,
You got to have a little bit of an ego. And I feel like ego can be very bad, obviously.
It definitely can.
Like we saw what happened with Shedeur Sanders, right?
Yep.
But ego can also be very good because it's motivating and it can force you to step up.
I'm glad you mentioned Shedeur. He's either gonna end up proving everybody wrong and he's just gonna be a fucking baller, or he's gonna prove everybody right. Either way, it's going one of the other ways. It's not. There's no middle ground for him.
Yeah.
And I don't foresee his ego ever changing.
Yeah. Do you think, let's talk about your ego. When you were in college, did you think your ego was tad high, or do you think it was just right for being a big SEC quarterback?
It honestly wasn't shit. Now that I think about it. You got your boy Coach Spurrier constantly in the meeting rooms. I'm voted a team captain 3 years in a row. And we're sitting in the captain's meetings and Coach Spurrier's just ripping my ass every single chance he can. I'm like, what the fuck did I do to this guy? I'm genuinely curious. Like, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah.
And I was just, I still am extremely hard-headed. And, he didn't like the beard. He didn't like the long hair. And I was like, I'm not fucking cutting it. I'm not doing it.
And
I was wrong.
Everybody has a beard.
Yeah, everyone. Every single person. So, to be honest, I carry myself with a big ego. But I remember, when he would chew my ass out, and I didn't care if he did it, in a one-on-one setting. But when he's talking shit to me in front of, the team, I'm like, okay, I feel like the biggest piece of shit. I just feel so small. And, it sucked. It's definitely a hit to your ego, but a couple of tequilas will help kind of fix that.
Yeah, alcohol's a great neutralizer.
100%.
I remember as a kid watching The Simpsons, there was an episode where it ends with Homer Simpson saying, cheers to alcohol, the problem and solution to all of life's issues, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty funny, but it's spot on. But when you look at the ego side of things, I always look, when I did the majority of the hiring for sales staff, for internal, I don't do it anymore. We have a fantastic hiring team that brings them all in and vets them, and many layers of decision making before you get an opportunity there. I looked for people that could respond and rise to criticism, because if you want to get strong, you need people to be able to tell you what you're doing wrong.
100%.
Yeah, and I won't lie, I do have a pretty good sized ego when it comes to things.
But do you tell people they're wrong even when they're not? Just try to motivate them?
That
was Spurrier's thing. I was like, dude, I'm doing what you're asking me to do, and I'm still not enough.
Yeah.
It's God damn.
And
man.
that's a tough spot to be in, because, maybe that was his method at the time of trying to get you to do more.
Well, we've talked about it since then, and he's like, Danny Werfel responded to me just chewing his ass out over and over and over again. I was like, I'm not fucking Danny, dude. I am not.
Steven, I'm glad you said that, because of all my years of management and hiring, I can tell you that every person is different.
100%.
And I think that's what I love so much about my business partners, is that they understood that, and still do, is people respond differently because they're different.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you have to figure it out. And that's what I think makes great leadership, whether it's sports or business, is how are my linemen going to respond to me?
Yep.
How are my receivers going to respond to me? How are the coaching staff going to respond to me? And it's no different. And then the business world is, we talk to administrative people. They're a lot different than salespeople. Account coordinators, managers, they're a lot different than recruiters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's everybody's got their own personality and agenda, but a great leader
knows
knows how to get on someone's level.
Yep.
And earlier we were laughing because the producer back there goes, "Man, Mac, you weren't lying. You don't stop talking." The reality is, I think that's what's helped me a lot over my career. Is no matter who you are, I feel like I can have a conversation with you.
100%.
And I think
at any level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, treat people well and don't let your ego get in the fucking way.
But yeah, it's like, you could talk to the president of $1 billion company, or you could talk to the waiter at Cheval.
Yeah.
Or the waitress at Cheval. You still show the same amount of respect. You still talk to them like, they're important.
And that's how we know, like, we're in good company with each other, because you're the same way.
Yeah.
We treat people well. And a lot of our friends that we golf with and in the business world, they're all the same,
Yeah.
and it's like, there's nothing worse than seeing people who achieve whatever the goal is that they wanted to achieve, whether that's money, status in a company, doesn't matter. And then they change. It's terrible.
Oh, I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it as well.
Oh, I've seen it terribly.
Like going out to dinner. It's like,
Yeah.
did you just like scream at the wait? Like what?
Yeah.
I got to get the fuck out of here,
Yeah.
man.
This
This is uncomfortable. I don't
it
want my
is.
food getting shit on.
It is. And I think people get uncomfortable with success. And I remember when I was younger, my dad had a very, poor upbringing, to say the least. And then, when he got older, he became successful. He's a retired physician now, but a very humble guy. And, he and I talk a lot about some of the people we grew up with in Sonoma County that really had a lot of money. And some of the guys,
I can
families.
imagine there's a lot of money in
Oh,
Sonoma.
yeah. I mean, some of the families, tremendous. Like, exactly what we're talking about. Take their shirt off your back, help you. And then other families who had money just treated people like shit.
Oh, yeah.
And you go, where's the disconnect here? And you find out that some people can't handle the success. Some people can't be the best in football and handle it. They get into the pros and, they lose their way with the people, right?
Yeah. And they don't last very long.
Yeah. And I remember there's a lot of athletes that I wasn't very fond of. And I'll be honest, I'm a huge San Francisco Giant fan. Grew up going to games all the time, Candlestick. In my opinion, the worst thing to ever happen in the NFL was for the Niners to move out of San Francisco. Very upset about that. Not happy with Jed York. I'm glad they kind of silenced him. But in reality, Barry Bonds treated people like shit when he was playing there.
No shit.
Yeah, and I watched him in Scottsdale not sign autographs.
Well,
and,
aren't you pretty angry when you're on steroids?
Yeah, I would think so. But hey, he played the game clean, man.
Shit.
But it's just one of those, and I've heard that he's come around and he's more relaxed now. But I'm sure, if you're taking all that shit and the stress, I'm not a professional athlete. I'm sure if you go somewhere and you have thousands of people asking you,
It gets old. It
But-
does. But I'll be honest, man, that I'm glad you mentioned that. It was just up in Columbia, this past weekend, and, people are like, hey, can I get a picture? Can I get an autograph? I'm like, fucking 37 years old, dude. Absolutely. And people are like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I'll ask so-and-so for an autograph, and they just kind of,
yeah,
I'm like, well, that's insane.
yeah.
That's insane. You want my autograph or you want a picture of me? I'll do it all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, and even when we're on the golf course, like, everybody knows you, like, you are a celebrity, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see how you treat people that come up to you, because you're everything that we're talking about, just being a good example of, hey, Steven's a guy that you could ask for an autograph and he's going to stop what he's doing, even though it's probably a pain in the ass, and sign an autograph for a kid.
But it's not, you got to think about it. A pain in the ass, that's not a pain in the ass. Scribbling your name down,
Yeah,
that ain't a pain in the ass.
sure.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I wanted to ask you, man, so how long did it take for you guys to get to 100 million?
We did that, I think, by our 8th year.
How was that? Was that just an absolute grind? I mean,
Yeah.
just kind of walk through, because I mean, I'm not a business owner. I mean, I am, but not to that damn level.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you go from starting something to 100 million? What are the hours? What are the days? What is the family life like? Like, Kind of
So
just explain.
I always, I always like to tell my wife, I don't think we would have worked out if we met in the first 3 years of starting the company. Um, every 90 days, internally, the two owners, and myself, the three of us, sit down with our hiring class and we give them the story of how it started. And it's about a 2 hour conversation, not scripted, totally open, and we just kind of talk. And the story never really changes that much, but we ad lib some things. But the three of us came down with our first employee, and Grant, if you're listening, I love you, buddy. He's been with us since our previous companies, and he moved down from San Diego, and he was with us 6, 7 days a week, grinding Saturdays, Sundays. And the thing I always tell people, look at where you work. Our ownership team, we've done every job at that company. We've done payroll, compliance, billing, shuffled legal paper for the attorneys. We did it all because we didn't have the money to do anything else. And so our first 3 years was very hard. And there were multiple times where some of our investors wanted to shut us down. And those were really serious conversations because we'd moved our entire lives out here, started fresh, didn't know anybody. And we said, we need to band together and do this. So basically, those are eye-opening segments. So you ask, how do you get to that number? And that number means nothing. That's just a landmark number that we really wanted to get to.
That's a pretty good landmark.
But it's a number that was built on hiring and training correctly, culture, and our workforce out in the field is everything. So every nurse that we have, every mid-level doctor, nursing assistant, you name it, was created by a relationship from a recruiter.
Well, you hear the term. I would run through a brick wall for that, coach. I mean, I feel like that's kind of similar to.
Yeah, and that's how we try to build the culture of, do you want to work here and have fun? Just last week, actually, we sent all of our top producers to the Bahamas with their plus ones. I
remember saying that. Yeah.
And for years the owners would go on that trip, and now we just let them go and have fun. But it's
why is that?
It's just. It's a time for the team. Yeah, it's a time for the team to be able to not have us watching.
You're right.
You know what I mean? But the reality is, we try to give as much back to our employees, but both internally and externally. And on the internal front, we have about 100 employees here in Tampa that do sales, recruitment, accounting, billing, all of it. And then externally, we have around 1,000 that are nursing, medical professionals. But the reality is, they're just as important to the process as anything, because everybody there has a relationship. Yep. And, I used to love, I'm an account guy. I don't stop talking. So I used to love getting in front of our clients. And to me, that was just so important. And now I read, our reviews, and, we have 500 5-star reviews on Google from nurses that work for us that just say, our teams are the best. And the reality is, it's the culture, so I touched on earlier.
Yeah.
And now the owners, we're way removed. We are there in a capacity to help, but we're no longer driving that business. And it's the executives, it's the middle management, it's
you delegate.
And it's because they bought into the process, they ran through the wall, and now they're building those teams below them the same way. So it's really, it's exciting, to be honest. And every time I walk into the office, we've got a great space right there. It's just literally right across the street. And it's a reminder every day of what's gone on the last 11 years to get to where we are. But, there's a lot of companies bigger than us. And I always enjoy talking to people about their story, because, the idea of getting to $1 billion company, it's insane. I mean, but people do it all the time.
It happens overnight sometimes.
Yeah, I know. And then if you do get there, how do you maintain it? How do you not fall below that number? And, honestly, I'll tell you, it's through having the right people internally.
And adapting to,
you have to change.
You have to.
You have to change. And believe me, we've had a lot of failure over the years, but.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. We're about to wrap this up. I wanted to go lead it in the next segment. What's your AI conversation?
Very scary. But yes, I'll have some comments
we'll dive
on
into
that
for
sure.
Anyways, welcome back.
Welcome back. We're taking a group of our top producers for the quarter. to a little lunch at Del Frisco's, and that's something that we like to do. We're interactive owners, but like I said, we're not really in the weeds anymore driving. But we listen to employee feedback because we think it's like the most important thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of our employees requested a little more face-to-face time with ownership, not just a 90-day meeting and like a Christmas party year-end kickoff or something. So we started now doing quarterly goals where if you're the top producer and you have the biggest gains for whatever category you're in, you either get a lunch with us every quarter, and then there's a big like dinner out at like a Charlie's or something like that on other contests. So, it keeps us like getting to know a lot of the new people and people that are kicking butt. And like,
I mean, that's pretty cool that they wanted, I mean, that says a lot about you and, your partners that they actually want to have face to face with you.
Yeah. And like, that's, we get asked quite a bit why, we don't go on the annual trips anymore and things like that. But the reality is, it is good to have a little bit of separation because you got to let people continue to run the operation.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so
without having to look over their shoulder, like,
yeah,
oh, shit,
and you have an owner in the background going, hey, like funny enough, look at some of the greatest NFL franchises in history and look at the turmoil that's gone on between ownership and then the people that are actually running the teams. You know what I mean? It's not the best. So
who do you have in mind? I mean, right off the bat, Jerry Jones.
Oh yeah, Jerry Jones is. You could write a textbook. The Cowboys should have won multiple more championships with the money that they've had, the talent that they've had, but Jerry couldn't get out of his own way.
Speaking of the Cowboys, congratulations to JP. Just got traded to him, so it's big time. George Pickens.
Cheers to JP.
Yeah, that's big time right there.
Now, how much like interaction do you have like with your crew guys? Or is anybody still in the league that you play with in South Carolina? Because you had such a talented team.
I think Clowney's the only one.
Okay, Clowney's savage.
Is he still on the team though?
I didn't think. Last I heard of was 2 years ago. He was still playing. I don't know.
I mean, he's the NFL guy. He would know. Is Clowney still playing? No. Stefon Gilmore. He's still playing.
I don't know.
Okay.
You don't know who Stefon Gilmore is? Being an NFL guy, you don't know a lot. That's kind of wild. He's a Bucks guy.
I'm on camera, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not on camera.
Yeah, no, this would be a good part though, just shooting the shit. But yeah, man, getting it like, I talked to Melvin Ingram. He was a first round pick. He made a shit ton of money. Talked to him through, a lot of different avenues. But I mean, these guys are still just absolute savages.
Yeah. What are they doing now? They retired. They got their money.
Melvin's trying to rap. He's not trying to. He is rapping.
Okay. All right.
He's got a penthouse in Miami and just living the rapper's life right now.
All right.
He's like, yeah, man, you need to come to Miami, man. I'll fly you down. I was like, send the plane, man. I'll come down there.
There you go. He was like, I'm always down for a good time.
Yeah, you kidding me? But yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys. That's the best part is that we all still get very along with each other, and I think that's a testament to. I don't want to say Coach Spurrier because he was not a hands-on kind of owner, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
As far as a coach, he let us kind of do our own thing, but he did not want to be kind of associated with the players, as opposed to you see Lane Kiffin that's picking up these 5-star recruits in a Lamborghini and driving around through Ole Miss. So there's different ways to manage people.
Yeah.
And Spurrier had his way of doing things, and I had my way of doing things, and as the manager of the team, and we clashed heads a little bit.
Sure.
Have you had to deal with any of that?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure you have.
You're always going to have to deal with it. I mean, and that's one of the things that I think is actually pretty rewarding is the team that we have in place now that more or less runs the company. We have our executive meetings, and a lot of these guys have their own ideas and their own experiences now, and they want to challenge some of the things that we say are paramount, that like this is how it has to be, and we've realized that.
Do some of them have some good ideas to where you're like, holy shit, like this is
absolutely, and that's what I think is the eye opener is just because you laid the foundation and it is more or less, I guess, your baby, your company,
right?
People will come up and rise to the occasion, and we've seen tremendous growth after we got out of the way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we still, I mean, you know, my personality, like I'm a
You want to
type
be,
A,
yeah, you want to be hands on.
yeah, it is painful to me, to not be able to just go and walk and talk to everybody. But again, you go walk around 100 employees, you can't talk to everybody.
Right.
And then if you stop and socialize for 3 or 4 minutes at a couple of different areas, then people are like, why is one of the owners not talking to me?
How come, yeah. Am I in the shit? Yeah.
Yeah. And in reality, it's just,
But that's how people think. I mean, that's
for sure. And I'm
that's
just trying to
human
get
nature.
to someone's office, you know what I mean? Just to talk to the person I need to talk to. But it shows you that we have so many great employees that for me, any chance I get for a company outing, I can't wait to go to it because the hiring is exceptional and we have new talent coming through the door all the time. And I always shake the hand of somebody and I go, is this the next president of the company? Is this the next CEO of the company? Who knows what they're going to do for us in the next 10 years or do for themselves. And that's where, earlier today when you were talking about opportunity is people are so afraid of failure. Like if I was an employee, which I've already said I've done at any company, and I had a chance to go talk to the owner, I would be all over.
Yeah.
I'd be telling him who I am. And I remember one time I got made fun of for introducing myself to somebody and they're like, they don't care who you are. And I go, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is I care who I am and I want them to know who I am.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need a little more of that mentality just in the country in general.
100%. And that's
going again.
And that's, I wanted to ask this question about the AI and your thought process behind it. Is that going to affect your business in a positive way? Do you lose employees with AI? Do you not need employees? I mean, I watch CNBC every single morning, and what the hell's his name? Peter Tudor.
Mm-hmm.
He was just talking about. He's like, AI is it's the end all be all. Like humanity's going to be done.
So let me ask you something, Steven. I don't disagree with anything you just said. Would you look? I realize how charming I am. I understand this. Okay. Would you want to sit here and listen to me go back and forth with you, or a robot in that chair?
It's not even comparable.
Yeah, right. And that's how I feel about it is let's say AI does take over. And I've gone down to big staffing conferences for North America where it's like the biggest and the best companies.
Do you guys use AI?
We do to some degree.
Do you use AI?
Every day.
Yeah,
We used it to create this.
Yeah, I will say what's incredible is the chat GPT and all that. That's what's really getting outrageous. And what's funny to me, I've had this conversation with like some of our legal people is I'm getting emails from people now and I go, I know you can't write an email that well.
Oh yeah.
I know you can't. And I didn't, this was happening about 2 years ago. And I'm like, why all the extra? And I'm like, there's not a single typo in this email. I go, what's going on here? And I started realizing people are using tools like Gemini.
Yep.
And all these
Grok. I mean, everything.
But I will say it is in my opinion. I grew up Catholic school raised where grammar was everything.
Yep.
If you didn't structure a sentence right, like with the diagrams and all that, you were held after and you had to sit there
figure it out.
Right?
Yep.
And my opinion of how people speak and write is very poor now. So these are tools that I think really help because nothing can kill a deal faster than somebody writing a sloppy email, misspelling a word. Those are things that are, in my opinion, unacceptable.
I mean, I almost, to your point, I almost rather send a sloppy email to get your attention.
Yeah.
If you're writing a perfectly, balanced email, it's like, okay, this.
Yeah. If
I
it's
get
too
100
good,
of these. Yeah.
If it's too good, yeah. But for me, I mean it. I bring it up frequently. I don't like when people send me AI emails because I fully understand that it's not coming from somebody else, right?
Yeah.
That like a human. Now, with that said, I've watched some of these robotic AI bot recruit nurses, and they're pretty freaking good, man. I mean, it's scary. And so
it's only going to get better.
Yeah. And years ago, I had a buddy who owned, it's kind of funny. I had a buddy who owned like 10 McDonald's in the Scottsdale area. And he was talking about AI kitchen bots 20 years ago. And now there are McDonald's in our country that
have no employees.
No employees.
Yeah.
And it is scary, right? Like I'm an 80s, 90s kid. Like Terminator is real to me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Skyline goes live, like all these things. So it's interesting, but for our industry, I do embrace technology. I do. And I think that for every robot that comes along to replace that recruiter call or compliance email or something like that, there's going to be another area for human interaction, meaning that maybe your layers of management get even deeper because then you're going to have people in your company, because I'm sorry, I don't think a robot is going to be going face to face and doing sales and
At
visiting.
Del Frisco's.
Yeah, doing
drinking a freaking bourbon.
Yeah,
know?
it's not going to happen.
No.
So, but I do think we need to chill out on that a little bit. And if you've listened,
there's got to be some sort of regulation. There's got to be. Yeah. It's like the NIL. You got to have some sort of regulation. You got to bring it back in because it's scary as shit, man.
Yeah, you listen to some of the podcasts about what's going on, and basically all the AI, according to many people who've been in these companies, is it's getting out of control, and there's not really any policing of what is.
How do you police it? It's fucking. It's in the cloud. I don't know. He knows a hell of a lot more of it than I do, but I've seen, my son Memphis is literally on his phone. I'll go into his room and he's like this, asking ChatGPT, "Hey, what's so and so for whatever, just math homework." I'm like, "Do you use that for everything?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's great. That's fantastic." What the fuck, man? What are we teaching these guys?
It's killing critical thinking, and my sister, she's a couple years older than me, and she has, like I mentioned, my niece earlier, who's 17, and then she's got two, a 13-year-old and I think he's 10 or 11. Where I'm going with this is she comments a lot on, how unsocial a lot of their friends are, and my nieces and nephews, very social, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with how our family is because we're loud, we talk, we bullshit a lot. But most kids are really starting to be antisocial.
100%.
And you start to...
Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel?
I hope so. I hope so, but I think
so
sports, educate me for a second. What's our enrollment now for football? Is it going down? Is it up? Has CTE scared everybody? What?
I think CTE definitely scared people when Vontez Burfict knocked the shit out of Antonio Brown.
Arizona State,
yeah. I think that was a huge deal. I feel like people don't really give a shit about that anymore. We talk about all the time, Sean and I, with the attention span of people that are watching these podcasts, that are watching Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Reels. The attention span of people is 15 seconds?
15 minutes for a podcast episode.
15 minutes for a podcast.
15 minutes, huh?
And I see stuff, from my Facebook. It's like, oh yeah, your Reels are, 1,300% more likely to be watched if they're under 15 seconds. And it's just like, I don't really give a shit about that information. I don't people. My point is, people just don't have the attention span anymore.
No, and that's every, I love to be on Instagram, pretty decent, all that stuff, right? All that, I love it. I'm a person that needs to laugh. Part of who I am is I have to laugh.
And there's creative people out there, man, and they're making money.
Yeah, and I love everything from, a lot of the Florida man stuff, just anything. I don't care if you're making fun of politics or whatever. It's funny. And as humans, you need to laugh. And it's I feel like a lot of people just aren't laughing anymore.
No, they're not.
And, people are pissed off. And I understand there's a lot of reasons to be pissed off, but
I think it's all part of the plan to piss people off and divide people and
there's a lot to
distract everybody.
There's a lot to be said for that. But one of the things that as I've gotten older, I used to never care about, anything that I ate unless it was protein to lift weights and all that stuff.
Right.
And now it's I try to eat as clean as I can. Obviously love to drink, but I try to eat as clean as I can because it makes me feel better. If you wake up every day and you eat Lucky Charms and then for lunch you have chips and a soda, and then for dinner, you have some other terrible fast food meal or some shit, dude, you're gonna feel like shit. When we go
100%.
When we go on hunting trips, if you don't have much to eat other than processed stuff, you feel like shit.
Yeah.
But when you're cooking grass-fed steaks or having nice wine, nice meals with wine, you feel much better. And I feel like a lot of society's problems is diet. And you walk around and you see what's going on with the appearance of a lot of people. We need to get back to the basics and get people working out and eating right. And I feel just that combination alone, the most successful people I know work out 4 or 5 days a week and they don't miss. And it's my business partner, it doesn't matter what's going on in his life, he's in the gym every day. Well, both of them actually. Both of them work out 5 days a week and do not miss. And they could be out till 2 a.m. They are up. It's 5:30
But I mean,
and they're there.
but it's a thing, and I tell my dad this all the time. It's like, you got the AFib or whatever. It's like, go start walking. You don't have to lift. I don't need you to squat 225 pounds. Just go walk. Do some lunges. Do some body weight squats. Do some stretches. Do something. And it's just, he's like, fuck it. I don't.
Yeah. It's
for
tough.
what?
It's tough.
I'm like, well, yeah, you have like 17 grandchildren. Maybe that's a good reason to get your ass up and move around.
Well, that's what's scary is watching. How old's your dad?
He is exactly 35 years older than me, so he's 72.
Yeah, so my dad's 75. And, you watch that guy lifted weights 6 days a week for his entire life. And now he's starting to feel the effects of just getting tired, like your dad. Like, he's just tired,
Yeah.
And I get it. You work your whole life.
When you're tired, yeah, you're fucking tired.
Provide for your family.
Yeah.
And, my dad was on call for 40 years and, shit wears on you. So I get it. So maybe when we're 75, we can sit and talk about like how
my dad
much
said,
we want to go walk.
My dad says the same thing. He's like, yeah, then you get to this stage and, you have your fucking kids and your grandkids telling you to get off the couch and start walking around. You don't want to do that.
No, you don't. And that...
you rather sit and have a nice glass of freaking cab and
just
chill.
Sit on the balcony.
Yeah.
I was giving my dad...
like, that sounds fair. I kind of want to do that.
Just this weekend, we were over in Anna Maria, which we were talking about. And the sun was getting ready to go down. So I told everybody, I said, all right, let's go down to the beach and take our sunset photos. And my dad's like, nah, I'd rather just sit up on the porch. And I'm like, no. I'm like, get
your ass down.
Your ass up and let's go take pictures. And then afterwards he's like, yeah, I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
But the reality is for him, he's like, look, I'm tired. We just had dinner. I had a glass of wine. I want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And he's like, sunset's great and all, but I've been watching them for 75 years.
This is the same thing.
So
he's like, this ain't my first sunset. So.
Exactly. So that's why, you get older and, I think as a child to your own parent, you have to look at wear and tear and understand that like, yeah, let me see how I feel at 75 before I start bitching at you about why you're not walking and lifting weights anymore.
100%. 100%.
And you know what? That leads me to another point of, I feel like we'd be in a better place just overall if people, just for a quick second, try to put themselves in somebody else's shoes. And I think that would go a long way with where we are just currently, is try to think about what the other person might be thinking before you decide like scorched earth on this human being. You know what I mean?
It's hard to think like that.
Yeah.
Because the society doesn't, make you think that way.
No.
Society now it's all about me, and what can I do? What can I do? What can I do for myself? And it's quite the conundrum.
It really is. And again, not to blame Instagram, but when I watch my niece scroll through her
social media
Instagram,
in general,
you go like you watch the Kardashians, you see all these billionaire girls that you see all this stuff, and you're like, we weren't exposed to shit like that. Like you knew as a kid that people had money, but you didn't know that people were getting on their G5 airplane every night and flying to France to go get donuts. You know what I mean? Like,
and then are going to tell you about global warming and you shouldn't drive a car. You should drive electric.
And then tell you that it's private equity backed. Pretty decent. Pretty
substantial.
Decent. Pretty substantial.
No, but it's the whole thing is just it's weird, man. Especially having kids and like what is their future going to look like?
Yeah.
It's
it's
scary.
My wife and I talk about that all the time. Is what is the world going to look like in 15 years? And it's you hope amazing, right? But the way that it is right now, I don't feel like it's been that great the last, I don't know, I would say the last 10 years we've had a lot going on.
Tumultuous.
Yeah, I mean, imagine like, and we're going way off topic now, but imagine
that's fine.
Like
I love
most of my friends in California, their kids couldn't leave the house during COVID.
Yeah.
The state parks, like here in Tampa, like Odessa, people could go out, like we went out on the lake, people would go walk the park, you could get out of the house. California, they couldn't get out of the house. And that probably has a psychological impact.
You think?
I'm not a psychologist, but if you couldn't leave the house at the peak of your...
And we're in the land of the free?
Yeah.
You can't leave your house?
It's kind of crazy, right? It's kind of crazy.
Batshit crazy.
But you look at that shit and you just say, I feel for our youth now because there is a definite polarization of what it is to be perfect.
Yeah.
And nobody can reach that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody can be perfect. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can't do it. And you could get all the money in the world. You could have all the plastic surgery, but you can't be perfect.
Yeah. Why would you want to anyway?
No, I know. You got
Imperfections are the best thing
Yeah.
about the whole humanity, being.
Yeah.
So
It helps you overcome.
yeah, absolutely. Well, shit,
We're
man,
running
this
out of time here.
was
Yeah.
awesome.
Hey, well, I look forward to my invite back, but cheers.
Absolutely. To sell staff.
How do we feel? Was that a good transitional way or what, dude?
I mean, I was kind of hoping, hey, check out Sports and Suits on all podcasts.
Okay.
Shit.
Could you hit record again and then dub it back?
Oh, well, it's still recording, actually.
So we can just X that out here.
Hold on one second. Let me...
On Facebook, Instagram, Spotify.
But are any of those
all
up?
that's going to be live, bro.
Oh, it is?
100% fucking percent.
But you said you could edit that, like what we're doing right
I'll
now.
edit
Okay.
this part out. So then, I mean, just act like you guys just finished and just talk away.
I'll do one more little cheers to that.
Okay. So he's gonna say all the shit you need to say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Pleasure.
Thank
Again.
you for having me as a guest.
inaugural.
Awesome podcast.
The
Yeah.
inaugural,
Yeah.
man. That's unbelievable. Well, like, share, subscribe, the whole shit that y'all do with social media. Follow us, Sports and Suits. Follow Cell Staff. Get to know Mac. If you're looking for some jobs, if you're a nurse, come on. If you guys are hiring,
Steven, thank you. Exceptional podcast. And we appreciate you, man.
let's go, man.